Steve, take it from here. Ginger, again, it's an honor to have you on the call. Super excited to watch you live here.
Thanks, Rob, and thanks everybody for all your hard work. And Ginger, welcome to the call. It's an honor to have you here. How you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing really good. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am. So first, I just want to make sure we pronounce your last name correctly. So I'm going to let you do it.
It's Lichlyter.
Perfect. Okay, I will not screw that up moving forward.
Okay.
So yeah, I thought it was amazing the other day. Everything you went through with Andrew, took a lot out of it. Obviously, we're evolving as a company and just trying to add more to take care of clients. So really wanted to dive deep with you today. So I guess we'll start here. You've been going back a little bit here with FFL for how long?
I've been with FFL since full-time starting in April.
Okay. And now your team from April is doing how much a month at this point?
We submitted 80,000 last week.
Okay. So growing. Nice. Okay. And have been in the industry for how long?
Since 2016. I was with Symmetry Financial Group before.
Got it. Okay, great. So at Symmetry, did you do virtual sales and transitioned it over here?
Yeah. So when COVID hit, there was a combination of when COVID hit and then we didn't have leads in our area. And I had leads because I'd been with the company for a long time and I had a lot of, I was kind of grandfathered into the territory. I was in San Antonio, Texas. And for years, I would travel all over the US to do travel trips. And then finally got leads and then COVID hit. So it's just like a good time, you start figuring out. It kind of started with my mom. She didn't even get Facebook. She's a broker. She has about 25 realtors, but she's, towards her 70s and she just would never learn Facebook. And I was like, seriously, you got to get, with the times. And when she got on Facebook through COVID and when she learned how to Zoom because she wanted to see us, that's when I thought things are changing. Like people are learning how to use this platform. So why couldn't we do business this way? And the carrier started doing all their e-apps. Remember, American Amicable all of a sudden had a, DocuSign. And so I thought, let's get on board. And so, yeah, I did that with them in 2020 and kind of figured it out for our team. Then when I came over here, I found out I could get more leads, get paid more. And they said, yes, you can do Zoom, but shh.
Cat's out of the bag now, right?
Yeah. Yeah. They were probably waiting to see if I could do it over here with these leads. I don't know.
Well, you're a trendsetter because you did very well with it. And now we are where we are. And you live in what state again?
I live in Utah.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. So obviously with the Zoom sales, where you're at now, is it predominantly what you do 100% of the time, or do you do it as, like a supplement and still go out into the field a little bit?
No, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I mean, just to be really honest and genuine, I got horrible PTSD worried about going into people's houses at night. Like, as dumb as that sounds, a lot of people are like, oh, people who are lazy don't go out. That's not true. There's a lot of reasons why people want to do Zoom. It has nothing to do with who works harder, more efficient, like none of that. It just had to do with me personally. I wanted to do Zoom. I wanted to work from home. I had a good office, a good setup, a good work ethic. It's just what I personally wanted to do and how I wanted to do business. So that's why I kept doing it.
Makes sense. What was good about the call the other day, so many things, but I think the expectations around kind of what to do, the types of leads, things along those lines, and what the process looked like. Yeah. So you talked about writing about 25,000 a month. That's pretty much what you average, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you talked about obviously doing mortgage and instant. Do you do any like Facebook final expense or any other type of like a live call transfer, anything like that?
No. So, the one thing, there's a couple of things, setting expectations. I'm issue paying 25 and above, submitting 30 to 40. You want to submit obviously more so you can make what you want on the issue pay side of things. But also you have to, okay, I need to issue pay this amount because I'm having to spend this on leads. And then, from the business standpoint, do you have everything set up? Like you have to take into account gas versus buying more leads, things like that. You said something else I wanted to respond to. What did you say? What was the other part of that?
Oh, the different types of leads that you use, mortgage
Okay.
instant, and then like other types.
Yeah, so I will tell you that final expense are a little bit harder via Zoom. And you can imagine if you were just guessing, older folks have a little bit more of a difficult time getting on their Zoom. I would say that 80% of the time, if they're over the age of 70, they're okay. You can work them through it. It's super simple. Make sure it's the one-click join like we talked about. But you do have to be ready with people who are a little bit older, that they're not as used to computers and all the different platforms that we have. So I genuinely try to stay, generally I try to stay away from final expense, just for the Zoom side of things. That being said, if I was running in the field, final expense were my favorite because I loved critical coverage, and I usually had better premiums that way. And people at that point are thinking, I got to have coverage. But if you're doing Zoom, you might want to readjust your numbers that way, or be ready to do a phone call with someone who can't figure out how to get the audio on.
Yeah, makes sense. You just had an interesting thing, and you mentioned it on the call the other day, kind of the gas versus buying leads. Like I was just calculating in my brain. I'm like, okay, I probably fill up twice a week. It's probably about $70. That's $280 a month there. What would you say you should be a realistic expectation of lead spend to write 25,000 on Zoom?
2,000 a week.
Okay. 2,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
To be honest, like that's 1,500 to two. I've spent up to 2,500. I've had spent more if I didn't have hardly any mortgage protection. I had to go in and get instant internet. But I'm like, where's my coupon?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And now obviously work spots, and they just did that 50%. So you can definitely get a lot. And I'm sure you're getting a lot of the 1 and 3 month old, which are, $1, $3 and stacking up on those.
Oh yeah. Sometimes those can be the best leads because they're not being dialed a ton. People think they want the coverage on the internet, and they're looking and they're shopping, and then they get a million calls and they're like, oh, can't even handle that right now. And then, people forget, and then you give them a call when they're a little bit more chilled out. Those can be really great leads. I've got new agents just starting, and they prefer those $4 leads. And two, like we talked about, your cost per lead, it's always a business. You take all emotion out of it, and everything comes down to a number.
100%. How many states are you licensed in?
All of them except for New York.
Okay. Well, that's certainly helpful. All right. So we're spending 2,000, spending 8, writing 25. Obviously you went through a lot on the side of the phone. What does your full week schedule look like to hit those numbers?
So dial in Mondays for Tuesday, Wednesday. Then in between, when people cancel, you're dialing again to fill in spots. And then Thursday for a Friday, Saturday. If for some reason I'm like, hey, I want to go to kids' games or do things with my kids and take a long weekend, or rearrange things, you can do that. You can call in a Saturday for a Monday, but I don't go into Tuesday, if that makes any sense to you. Don't book more than that second day out, because people just don't show up.
Yeah, totally. You also mentioned on there using phone burner. So you're having, obviously you have an abundance of leads to go through. That's helping you big time, right? On the first dial.
Yeah, I'll tell you guys also a thing that I found on phone burner. I don't know if you guys know about it. Hit the chat function and ask about it on your phone burner. But they have a feature where you can sign up for, I think it's like $30 a month. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. But you can ask to go into a program where if they start seeing that your number's getting flagged or spammed or anything like that, then they'll suggest you switch numbers, and they'll let you know which numbers you need to switch out. So that's that's been really helpful. I don't know how many of you guys have used it and then gotten flagged as a spam, but and you don't even know it.
Yeah.
You're like, nobody's picking up my calls. You have to, if things all of a sudden in your numbers go wonky, where you're like all of a sudden not getting people pick up or different things, then you have to stop and go, wait, something's off. The area code or something's weird. I need to go in and double check everything.
Yeah, that's a great tip. That's awesome. Okay. So, loved your kind of your phone on how you set things up. It wasn't crazy different than, what typically we're doing, except adding, at the end that Zoom. You talked a lot about, being familiar with Zoom, which most people are, having the one click so people aren't, having a hard time getting in on it. So
Mhm.
now on your days, you talked about 10 appointments a day you'd set up on average on Zoom, right?
Right.
Okay. And about a 40% show ratio, was it somewhere around that?
Yeah.
Okay. And then people no show and you're just right into back on phone burner, rebooking.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what else are you going to do? You already have that time set aside to make money. You have two money making activities. Your first two money making activities of the week are to dial and run appointments. Always, even if you have a huge agency, it's good. You see Steve there, like everybody's running after, right? So that's what's different, I think, about FFL is that people were in the field, we're doing we're dialing, even Sean's dialing. And then the third activity, of course, would be recruiting, but for sure, yeah.
Now, one thing I was thinking about with probably not being able to resolve as many leads, obviously, if you just can't get anybody on the phone, I'd assume you're hiring to those areas now that you have leads that, hey, I didn't get these on the Zoom. Now I'm hiring and here you go. Here's 100 leads.
Yeah, so that's the beauty of it is so I've got agents all over now. So if I'm in like, okay, for example, for some reason I gotten like 5 leads in Dallas, let's say. And I had just gotten them. They're fresh. I tried to call him, I texted him, didn't get a hold. So I had an agent out there and I'm like, hey, here, do you want these leads? So I just gave him the leads. And he door knocked 3 of them and told 2 of them. So it kind of works.
Love it. And you just said something that triggered in my head. So, I'm assuming like most on your first initial call, you're probably calling 3 to 4 times, I'd assume, right? And then moving on to the next. That's probably your process.
Yeah, I only dial twice. And
Okay.
then
So you dial twice.
I'll hit them 3 times in the day. So morning, afternoon, and evening. And then by the evening, and this may not be company standard or good practice. I don't know. I'm just telling you guys what I'm doing.
It's working for you. So it's got to be good practice, right?
By the 3rd round, I'm like, okay, all right. They requested this information. So I snap a picture of it and I text it to them. I'm like, listen, I'm just trying to close your file or help you with what you requested. So I even say in my text, hey, I don't pick up numbers I don't recognize either. I thought I'd go ahead and text you what I was calling you about. Is this something we want to take care of? I just want a yes or a no. Right? Because I got another dial day. I got to run the appointments I'd set and I need another fresh load and then a fresh dial day. So yeah, that's what I do.
I love that. And it's interesting because you and Andrew talked about, you had mentioned everybody's a hot mess, right? And
Yeah.
I think when you do that on the text, it's like you're just a real person. Like you're not
Right.
like some
Right.
wacko telemarketer. It's like,
Right.
look, like I'm trying to get a hold of you. Where are you?
Right.
Give me yes or no.
By the 3rd, like it's that like that movie, they're just not into you. That he's not that into you. Like by the 3rd time, they don't want to talk to you. Like it's not like, oh, they're not, they're busy. They're obviously not picking up for a reason. And you have to assume that at some point, the cool part about our leads is everyone at some point wanted this. We're not calling out of the phone book. So you just assume they wanted it and you're helping them.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I want to thank you because that close your file line, I used it in my dials today on like regular stuff. And I'm just like, I just got to close your file. And I had a dude, he says to me, hey, I can't meet you to do the appointment. And then when I said that, he goes, all right, well, come over at 12:30 tomorrow if we can just close the file out. I'm like, all right, great. So thanks.
Nobody
I
wants
learned
to
something new
file
every
closed.
day. I heard that. I'm like, that's genius. Like, how come I've never thought of that?
Yeah, that's a good one. And I have to say that line I've only been using for a couple of weeks. And if we go back to re-asking the question of the show ratio, that actually my show ratio probably jumped up to well over 50%. I would say probably 60 to 70 that week because people are just like, okay, good. It's just a quick, simple, we're done. They're going to close the file and they're going to leave me alone.
Yeah. And you're doing all of your texting like manual text. You don't have any type of a system. I know some people use a system where it's like, hey, if I book the appointment, I'll put it in, they'll get a text reminder, whatever. You don't do anything like that, or do you?
No, I really don't. I mean, two things that I do that are probably archaic, but I don't care. The first one is that when I got my leads, sometimes they're via email. And if you get a bunch of them, I will put them in manually. Okay. So there's that, what I do in my phone burner. And then the second thing is that I text them from my cell phone. I say, hey, this is my personal cell phone. You know, so it's a different number. My name pops up on it when I text. And I also always have my cell phone on me. I don't want to miss a text back. I don't always have everything set up. And two, I think that some people, I mean, I'm not an IT genius. Most people, maybe most people are, I don't know, but you know, haven't even slowed down enough when I transitioned over to figure out some sort of system. I figure it's just as easy to send a personal text really fast when I'm done. So in phone
Yeah.
burner, you can really quickly do an SMS. I have done that before, so you can do both if you want to do automation.
Okay. Now, if obviously the 60% will say that, you know, no show you, whatever, what will you do? How will you handle those? Like, are you messaging them right away when they missed it? Do you just move on? Maybe I missed that in the call, but tell me that process.
No, that's good. So no, he just asked it if I emailed or text. So I will text, I tell them, hey, I've got a pile of people to help. I don't know if people are panicked about COVID or what, but it's just overwhelming. So I'll have to apologize. I'll send your text or your email tonight when I'm done booking the rest of my day. And then I'll send you I'll send you another text in the morning as a reminder. And so I don't send a text right before the meeting, right?
Mm.
Because that's a horrible time to send a text.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
they're going to be like, whatever they're doing is going to be way better than doing insurance. We're always so good about, like, I'll do this with my friends sometimes. They'll be like, you want to go out? I'm like, yeah. And then all of a sudden you're not in the going out mood. Really, I'm never in the going out mood right before. I'd rather just like get in my PJs, order some sushi and watch TV. Right.
Mm.
But because I committed, I said I would go, I usually end up going. But if they had texted me right before and like, hey, all of us are really kind of tired or whatever, are you coming? It gives you opportunity to get out. So text in the morning as a reminder when people are fresh. And then at the time of the meeting, wait until it's like 2 minutes past and then text and say, hey, I'm waiting on you in Zoom. So people, you're not asking, like, they feel like they've inconvenienced you, right? So a lot of times they'll show up if you say I'm waiting in Zoom. Another thing I have realized is that just because and even if they had texted you earlier, and when you text and say I'm waiting on you in Zoom, and then they don't show up, then pick up your cell phone and call them and say, hey, can I help you get connected? Are you having trouble? And most of the time it's because they're having trouble. And they're like, oh yeah, what can we do here? And if they're having trouble getting in the audio, you can kind of usually give them a call on phone burner and then take it on the audio side of things. Like, just be flexible and don't stress out. And if you have to do it on speakerphone and you never ever get them on Zoom, then just the fact that you wanted to get them on Zoom and show them your credentials, they're usually really happy with that.
Yeah, like that. And the initial link you're sending in an email because you're capturing the email in the call.
Yeah, if they say they're gonna, so just like you guys say, like, hey, what color is your house? Is there any big dogs that I need to look for? Or you'd say all of that, you know, in the initial call for the in-home part of it, because you want them visualizing you coming to their house. And it's a great line. Same thing is that, hey, are you going to be joining the meeting from your phone or your computer? Then they visualize joining the meeting, and then you just get an email out of it if it's a computer. So, and then you also text them, ask them, is this your cell phone? Great, I'm gonna send you a text too. And then you do both.
See, what I love about this is at FFL, I feel like we're great at psychology, right? Like we're great at the phone psychology, the in-home. You're now great at the Zoom psychology and sharing it. And I think that's a piece. Like, there's these little nuggets that you're doing that are taking people to where you want them to go, which is obviously on the Zoom call. What percentage on your leads would you say is mortgage to instant?
I'd say 60% mortgage protection, and not just necessarily new mortgage protection. The great thing about FFL is you can go in and there's tons of mortgage protection, older stuff too. Same goes for a 1-month-old. Those are great. So 60% mortgage protection and the rest is instant. You guys have to understand, I came from Symmetry where all we did was mortgage protection, right?
Mhm.
I should say my practice, all we did was mortgage protection, right? So I had to come over here and learn everything that was available. I was just talking to an agent in my office and I was saying, one of the beautiful parts about FFL, and it really is the true IMO, the true full picture, is that you have everything to work. Like you have, now that Zoom is available, and a lot of people are doing Zoom and have been doing Zoom here. But now that all these pieces are available to us and trainings are available, an agent can come in and they can work life, final expense, mortgage protection, advanced markets. They can do Zoom, they can do in-home, they can do over the phone, like all of these things are available to where there's really no reason, if you're in the insurance space, why you wouldn't do well here, if that makes any sense. So find your
Absolutely.
combination that works for you. If you're doing Zoom and for like 3 months and you suck, stop doing it. It's just not your cup of tea. It doesn't really mean anything is wrong with you. It just means that that's not your avenue. That's not your path. So, and I've got agents that do 100% instant internets and 100% Zoom. I've got Carlos Samaniego. He came over, he fell in love with the instant internet. If he needs more, he goes and gets more. He does Zoom all over the country, and he sold almost $13,000 in 2 days. Just loves it, you know? So
Wow.
I would say find what works for you.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned, we were texting back and forth, some things that have come up, questions since the call that you did on Friday.
Mhm.
You want to address any of those things and we'll go through some of that stuff?
So the biggest question, I guess, has been surprising me for new agents, new people coming in, saying, wow, we get to do Zoom. I definitely want to do this now. They're all wondering how a couple of things, I'll try to combine it into a couple of questions. How, if they're supposed to meet them in person, how they're able, that whole element there. You just have to verify identification for your client. You can have them text you a picture of their photo ID before you start the meeting or right when you start the application. That's another great time for me to say, hey guys, here, I want to show you my ID. Here in a little bit, I'm going to ask you for yours. So that's a great way for you to take that trust completely, the distrust off the table. A lot of new agents are wondering about how do you get them to sign, which I'm like, yeah, it's an electronic signature. All carriers are okay with that. You either check off remote or in person. Aetna has a great app where you're on Zoom. If you have older people, I love Aetna because they actually have a little thing in there where, so you know how in Americo, sometimes you send over, and I love Americo as well, but you send over the HIP authorization and that one's easy, but then you send it over for the e-signatures, and if people are older, they're like, I don't get it. And you feel helpless because you can't help them get through it. On the Zoom side, Aetna will help you if you're doing Zoom because they actually have that security question where you can ask them, and then right on the screen, you can just click through the entire signature process. I don't know if y'all probably already know about that, but it makes it easier.
I was just going to say that with carriers. So your top carriers, Aetna, because of the simplicity, and who else do you use?
Aetna for older people, I like them. They pay the full comp on that product, and they're super easy on the underwriting. I got locked out of a lot of carriers when I came over here, so I probably you guys. I love Americo for term. I like the instant decision part of it. We kind of are forced to use Moo on some of the stuff, but yeah.
Okay. What would you say is a persistency difference between in person and Zoom? Is there any difference for you?
No. And I was the kind of person when we met in person, like we would eat dinner together and I would go tour their old cars and their vegetable garden. I don't know that there's really any difference. People forget they're on the computer after they sit with you for an hour. Like we're still best of friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the answer to that question is you are the persistency at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Like the relationship. ultimately.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of agents make the mistake of just being so grateful to have the business that they don't like feel like I want to be your person forever. Like I want to be your girlfriend forever. Right? Don't be coy about it. This is your only time to ask to be their girlfriend forever. And I think if you establish a good relationship, I do it in the application process when we do the replacement. I think I said in the last training where I have to ask if, we're not, I say, hey, it asks if we're going to replace any previous policies or not. The reason it asked that, is this. And then I just say, hey, I just want you guys to know I'm not replacing anybody else's policy. I don't want anybody else to come in behind me and replace my policy. I want to be your insurance person forever. Are you guys good with that? And I make them tell me, oh no, we love you. We're not, like ask for that back from them. And then another thing you guys can do is to say in that same time in the application, hey, while I'm filling out this application, you guys do me a favor and put my name and number in your cell phone so that when I call you and tell you that you've been approved, that you'll recognize my number and pick up. And I also tell them, and don't put Ginger, because when Bob dies, and he will, you're not going to remember my name. I know you're going to love me as your insurance person. You're not going to remember Ginger Lichlyter. Nobody, I didn't hardly even know how to say my last name. So do me a favor and in your phone, put insurance lady, because I want to be your insurance lady. You'll remember that. And then put Ginger after it. I think that helps people too, so if any strange numbers call, they're like, well, this isn't my insurance lady.
Makes sense. There was a really key thing that you said in the in your in-home, I take this now into my in-homes, is we're going to do one of two things. We're either going to submit the application or we're going to decline the coverage and we're going to close the file, back to closing the file.
Mm-hmm.
I assume that's something you've used throughout your whole career, whether it be in-home or Zoom.
No, I actually had an agent teach me that. This is a really good thing. You always learn from what other people are doing. I think that agents make the mistake of not plugging in the calls and trainings because I'm doing great. You could do better.
Yep.
These little things that you could pick up. I actually learned it from another agent. She was saying that, and she does 40 to 50 a month. So I was like, I could be better. So I'm going to add that little thing. And it's those little things that make a really big difference, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense. It's funny. I had an agent who just texted me and he said, looking at different territories and areas, and obviously you have the entire United States at your disposal. Do you have like a top like 5 where you're like, hey, like I love these 5 areas?
Like I would tell y'all. I'm Southern, so I do better with my people, right? Not that anybody has any people, but that's where I'm from, is the South. So I close better there. I have people from the North that close better there. I have some people that hate working California, some people that love it. So I think just like leads, you have to say in your mind, everyone needs coverage, learn how to deal with all different types of people. So I don't know that I necessarily have states that I absolutely love. I do have states that I work because I'm in the mountain time zone. So that's where I decided to work different. So the beauty of Zoom you haven't thought of is that you all of a sudden if you're in the Eastern time zone, you have like more hours in your day. Like you could work until 10 o'clock and still be covering people right after work. So that's a really great strategy if you're smart, and you can sleep later if you want. You don't have to start dialing until, so start thinking about like your lifestyle. What time zones do I want to work? Or do I want to work all of them? And now all of a sudden I can start dialing early in the morning until late at night.
Okay. Wow. I love that. That's awesome. Okay. I'm going to go run, 10 appointments and then go do like 3 hours of Zoom now. You just got my wheels going.
Right? That would be so cool, right? Just do your thing. And now you just added 3 more hours of your day. How much more money could you add in? I mean, that's the beauty is I think I heard Zach say, maybe it was Andrew, came and did a training in Utah. And he said, it always kills me when people are like, gosh, it's hard work. Yes, it's hard work. It's not forever work. Rip the Band-Aid off, get to where you're going, run hard and run fast. And I think about that like, oh gosh, I got to do this or whatever again today, but I'm going somewhere. Normal people out in the real world who work 9 to 5 jobs, they have no control over where they're going. They really don't. Just somebody sitting in an office at the top of the building gets to decide what their future is. You don't do that. Here, you get to decide for yourself. If you decide to watch Netflix instead of dialing, then you just chose for yourself. Right? So that's kind of my goal is I'm running as hard, as fast as possible. So whatever allows me to do that, you know?
I love that. We'll wrap with this. Any other things that you wanted to touch upon, questions you're getting in addition to the one that you answered and things that maybe, you want to add to what you went over on Friday?
Yes, one of the bigger things too is people are like, I didn't get the PowerPoint that was emailed out from FFL. And I'm just letting everybody know, just reach out to your upline. That must mean you're not on the email list because it was sent out. So reach out to your upline and ask them, say, hey, I'm not on that. Where do I need to go to get on the email list? And then did you guys get it? And then get it from them.
Yeah. And guys, I posted it in our Slack. So you can go there, and I'm pretty sure Rob did as well. Yeah, I'm excited about this, and I'll be very honest. I'm kind of, my process is my process. I don't want to change my process, and I'm not saying I will change it. But as you just said different things, I'm like, I have to be open-minded to adding things to get to goals that I want, and I know our team wants. So I think it's great, adding more to the repertoire. And I really thank you for everything you did on Friday and today as well.
Hey, thank you for having me. For sure. I think it's awesome.
Anything
Ginger,
we can do for you, let us know. And Rob, take it from here.
Yeah, Ginger, one thing I wanted you to touch on that I took from your original podcast was the number of appointments that you're setting.
Okay.
And how you have to ratchet that up to get the same results that you would if you were going in-home, which you've created an ultra attractive platform here. And this is going to open a lot of doors for us, but can you touch on the importance of setting a quantity and quality of appointment when you're doing this? So your show ratio does maintain that 50-60%.
Yeah. So 2 things. We'll go back and touch on the rating system because I just used it today with a guy who was mean to me. And then we can talk about the number of appointments. So you definitely need more than 30. So you probably minimum 40. You can set anywhere between 40 to 50. If you look at your calendar, and I have a paper calendar, and at the end of the night, I put it on my Google Calendar. I have 2 just so it can be on my phone. But on your paper calendar, if you just circle on the hour, you can usually get appointments done in about 45 minutes because there's no chit chat. There's no petting the dogs or cats. There's none of that. You're just like, okay, did the application, great. We'll let you know. But then you close. So set appointments every hour. That's how you can fit more in. There's no drive time now.
Can you pause there for a second, Ginger?
Yeah.
So when you're not meeting people in person, are you finding that you're able to do these Zoom meetings with people throughout the day versus them needing to be home from work?
Yeah. Sometimes they'll meet me at lunch, or sometimes I've done all kinds of things. They're like, hey, I have, some availability. I've got an hour here. My husband will be there. That's great. If they tell me their spouse is not going to be there, I tell them, okay, that's not going to work. The only way it's going to work is if you can make a decision right on the spot, on the fly without your spouse. Can you? And by the end, they look dumb if they can't. So, yeah.
Your level of transparency with how you're setting the appointment, I think, is really important too. You don't sugarcoat it. You're like, we're not going to do this unless you're willing to make a decision while we're on the Zoom call, and your wife needs to be there or your husband needs to be there, whichever. And how do people respond to that?
Oh, okay. Well, let me ask her. Oh, people are really great to just, nobody wants to spend hours doing this. It's a necessity. It's right next to getting a tooth pulled. You got to have it done, but it's not pleasant. So if you make it short and easy and pleasant, they like it.
And when you're talking, when I was going in home, and people said, I might have, I have another agent or something that's calling, you mentioned something on your original podcast, how you overcame that of them sending in, you said you probably got, this is during the replacement section of the application. Can you run through that?
Yeah. So again, that's where I just close up the back of the file. You can say, I don't know how many of these you filled out. show them on the Zoom, lift up your lead, especially a handwritten one. Those are beautiful. But you can be like, I don't know how many of these you filled out. Pause for a second. They'll tell you, oh, I got 10. I filled them all 10 out. Okay. I don't know if you're getting a million calls. Are you? Are not, whatever. Well,
Yeah, I'm getting some calls.
we
I'll
all
report
do the
with you.
same. Yeah, we all do the same thing. I work for all the carriers. Anytime in your presentation, you can take care of things you commonly get as a rebuttal, like want to think about it, or I want to do some shopping. I have some people calling. I have another appointment, like anything, put that in your presentation ahead of time before it becomes an objection. So that's a great place to put that. I don't know how many, that's a great, anywhere you can mention that. You know, if you're having trouble with persistency, obviously you're not closing up very tight behind yourself because other agents are coming in. Other agents will come in behind you. What frame of mind do you want your client in when they come? That's how you do it.
Memorable is always a really important thing to me when I was in the home, and you have a really, really unique story, and it works for you. Not everybody, fortunately, is not going to have that same story to tell. Do you coach your new agents to talk about themselves a little bit, to be a person versus a salesperson?
Yeah.
When you're doing
sure.
these calls?
Yep. Yeah. If you don't have a story, you know somebody who does. Use mine if you want to. Have a colleague. This happened to her. You know, like you want people to, you do. From my long time ago, I worked for a company called Direct Buy, and we basically had to sell a $5,000 membership in 45 minutes. And we told them they couldn't come back in and get it if they said no. Like, that's intense. That's like you go in to buy a car and they're like, if you don't buy this car, you can't come back to our lot. So you have to figure out a way to deliver that. And the best way to do it is with likability is the first thing. And then trust is the second thing. And then understanding. It goes into every product. Like, trust, and understanding. Those three things, if you hit those three marks, then you're fine. So you can do it on Zoom. You can do it in person, however.
That's awesome. I appreciate that. And then for somebody who is going to start doing or just pursue the Zoom sale approach to this, your advice to them would be to lock up as many mortgage counties as possible, because it doesn't really matter where they are. You just have to accommodate the time difference. But that's what you were having the most success on.
I have on mortgage and instance.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. That was it. Steve, you covered just about everything. I just wanted to touch on those couple of things. Thank you so much, Ginger. Appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
Steve, anything else
thanks.
you want to talk about, or are we good?
No, I think we're good. I appreciate it. Yeah, there's so much to unpack here, and thanks for jumping in there. Ginger, again, anything you need from us, let us know, and we really, really appreciate you.
Hey, thanks for having me on
Thanks
today. You guys have a great day.
You got it. You too.
All right, guys. Well, let's get back on the phones. First week of September. Let's make it a huge month. Let's get that momentum going into Q4 of the year, which is knocking, man. It is knocking. October, November, December is right around the corner. So let's get that momentum, guys. Focus on activity. In my opinion, if it's worth anything, is to not cold turkey anything. So if these Zoom sales sound really attractive to you, test it. Don't completely change your marketing strategy and your entire business plan. Integrate it in. And if you're having success with it, pursue it full on. But I think there's some real strategic steps here that if you do want to do this, which you have fully my blessing if you do it the right way, is commit to overspending on leads in the beginning, where you're going to need to do lead drops with the new mortgage mail company that just came out. If you guys have not seen it, Steve, it's on my Slack. I don't know if you put it on yours or not.
Yeah.
I would reach out to them immediately and say, give me whatever freaking territory you have. Doesn't matter if it's Mountain Time or Eastern Standard Time. If you guys are serious about doing this, you need to commit to doing it the right way, because this can be an utter disaster if it's not handled appropriately and you don't approach it with everything aligning and stacking the numbers into your favor. And also just commit to overspending for 3 weeks while the mail is coming in on the new drops, because again, this is going to be a foreign concept to a lot of you, where you're going to be working in an area that is not your backyard. So you have to have the leads accumulate. You got to be patient with the amount of time and money that you're spending on this thing for for the 3 weeks while these leads start to roll in, don't abandon your other approach. So keep doing exactly what you're doing and start to integrate this slowly. And I would love if somebody wanted to test this. Steve, I don't know if you're planning on doing any of this. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but if there's some agents out there that say, hey, I want to give this a try, please reach out to me directly. I'll help you out a little bit while you're trying this out. If you want to be a guinea pig in the truest sense of that, I want to support that as much as I possibly can, because if we start to have success stories here on this, this can truly change the game, not only in terms of your time management and your ability to commit to building and recruiting, but from a recruiting standpoint as well. I mean, the number of people that I know, Steve, you've done it too, we've turned away because they said, hey, we want to do virtual sales. We've probably turned away hundreds of agents.
Totally.
So if we can have somebody doing this at a high level of success, or even at the same level of success they're having, and we can duplicate that, again, please reach out to me directly. Everybody's got my number on this call. Aside from that, let's get the activity. Let's keep the momentum going. Let's have a strong week and, start September strong and close out this year the best possible way we can. Let's get out there and protect American families. I'll see you all next week.